What's up, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we are in the progressive war room. We know this is where we talk progressive strategy, we talk about electoral politics, and I got my man, Daniel Wilson. He is running for California Assembly at the state level, and we're going to talk about, his opinion of what went down with the CalCare situation, and also we're going to touch on Brianna Joyce Gray interview with Ash Cholera, and he's going to refute some statements that was made there. So here we have a true progressive, and he's going to give us his opinion of what went down. Daniel, tell us what's going on with you, your campaign, and say hi to the people.
Awesome. Hello, everybody, Case Study QB listeners and watchers. I know that a lot of us are of the same mindset of the things that we're seeing and what's going on, both in our politics and the mainstream media. And Case does a wonderful job of capturing a lot of the contradictions and the hyperbole and the mainstream fear mongering that happens to keep us all in check. So as Case said, my name is Daniel Wilson. I'm running for California State Assembly, District 38. Vote for Daniel.com. Where is it? Right there. There we go. The mirror always messes me up. So vote for Daniel.com. You can catch me on all of my social medias right up here behind me at Daniel4VC. Twitter, Instagram, all my socials are there. What we're doing here is running a fully grassroots, nonpartisan, non-corporate campaign to fight for CalCare. And I was excited that CalCare was already going to be passed by the time I got elected. Now we've seen what has happened, and gives me even more of a reason to continue running as a nonpartisan, because what we see is that even when we have Democrats that are fighting for a bill 100% behind it, they wrote it, they co-sponsored it, out there, supposedly doing the best that they can to get this passed. And then when we have the moment, they pull it from the floor. And so if anybody checks out my Twitter, I've got my pinned tweet there where I directly call out Ash Cholera that this was a huge mistake. We saw something that we haven't seen in the history of the introduction of any type of single-payer universal healthcare bill, was that the progressive party, the progressive caucus in the state California Democratic Party, the chair actually came out and said any Democrats that vote no to CalCare will not be receiving the progressive Democrat endorsement again next year. Never in the history of this bill have we seen a progressive party come out, let alone the Democratic Party, come out and say that we are 100% behind this, and if you do not vote for it, you won't be re-endorsed. So he had backing from even within his own party. And as we'll get into, what he says over and over again to Brianna Joy Gray and to anybody that'll listen is that the votes weren't there. And as we know on the left, and all of us that were behind force the vote, that's just a cop-out. You not having the votes, and this is what I said again in my tweet, not having the votes is even more of a reason for you to force the vote, because then we know who stands against it. And so that's what I said. You've not only robbed us of healthcare, you've now also robbed us of the opportunity to primary any of the Democrats that would have voted against it. And because now you're on mute, buddy. Yeah.
This would have been a great opportunity to expose people for their true stance on CalCare. And this is the exact moment that we need as the progressive, especially in California. California is supposed to be a very progressive state. I understand that every single district might not be as progressive as another, but this is the time that we put the pressure on to get people on the record to find out who is for CalCare. And I love that Bree had a great interview. I'm glad that I also love that Ash, I got to give him credit for being interviewed, because a lot of times people do not even come to the front of, we call it, coming to the front of the congregation and talking for yourself or speaking for yourself. And a lot of times, even our own progressives do not do that. And we should have to start holding them accountable. I truly believe that once the outside game, there's the inside and outside game, right? Inside is the inside, the Congress or whatever, and the outside game is the people.
Yep.
The reason why the inside game is so weak is because the outside game is so weak. And until we become stronger, where we hold them accountable, then we can get a stronger inside game. What do you think, Daniel?
I couldn't agree more. You and I are of like minds on this. There's a huge debate especially in the online left, but in the left and throughout the Democratic Party in general, is, do we keep voting, or do we pull away from electoral politics? And then with the Democratic Party, is it, do we infiltrate from the inside, or do we burn it all down and start a whole new thing? And for both of those questions, my answer is that it's both. It doesn't have to be an either or, it's a both and. Voting isn't only going to solve things if the people that are being voted in aren't doing anything that we want. So we need to be out in the streets, marching, holding them accountable, protesting in front of their houses, doing all of these things, and also voting them out, like I'm saying. So it's not a only vote, and it's not a only organize, because we can march until our feet fall off, but if there aren't people in office who are going to care and be pressured by, us holding them accountable, then it doesn't, our marching won't matter. So it's a both. We've got to vote in better people, and then we've also got to keep marching to hold them accountable. It's not a get some, like everybody thought, we got the squad in there, well, let's go back to brunch, right? No, we have to stay consistent and persistent in holding them accountable. So we see how this happens. And same with the Democratic Party. Should we infiltrate it, or should we start a new thing? I think it's both. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with being nonpartisan, is because there's this famous clip that everybody plays, and I love it. Lawrence O'Donnell, talking head for the Democratic Party, he says that, and you and I have talked about this quote before, that the Democrats don't have to listen to anybody on the left because they know we've got nowhere to go. And we've seen now how, decades of targeted attacks have destroyed not only third parties individually, but the third party option and any opportunity to gain any foothold. So that's kind of been dead in the water. And so what I'm trying to do is show that we can do none of that. We can go nonpartisan and go outside of the system. They'll still have to work with me. I'm still going to work with Democrats. I'm going to work with Republicans. I'm going to work with anybody that is willing to sit down and come to the table and work on actual policies that are going to provide tangible change and relief for our people. So if a Republican wants to sit down and talk to me about CalCare, let's do it. If a libertarian, independent, whoever wants to sit down and talk about CalCare, we're going to talk about CalCare. The benefit of being nonpartisan is that I don't have to worry about anybody in the party getting mad at me, right? That's what it really boils down to with Ash Kalra, is he was afraid of, he was afraid. I can't pretend to know his motives. What it appears is that he was more concerned with outing his colleagues than getting us. Because, and Brianna hit him on this, and mad respect, yes, to Ash for going on and taking the hard-hitting questions. And then always mad respect to Brianna Joy Gray for never, she never holds back a punch. She asks them hard-hitting questions, what we want to know. So, she said, why, she asked him, I think 2 or 3 times, who were the Democrats that were a guaranteed no? And he kept deflecting and diverting and not answering the question. And that's really what it boils down to. That's where the problem is they're more concerned with civility politics and maintaining a party cohesion and whatever that is than in actually getting us anything. And I had a wonderful question asked of me the other night. I just recently got the HCALA endorsement.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Single-minded for single payer, 100%, everybody in, nobody out. I am right there with them. I've been fighting for CalCare alongside them since last year. Did the March for Medicare for All. But so super thankful to HCALA if anybody out there is watching from them. And so in my endorsement interview from them, Erica, one of the leads, asked me a wonderful question. She said, and this is what we see with the squad and a lot of other people that we thought were going to do certain things. And Brianna's even articulated this wonderfully in giving them the benefit of the doubt that it's not that they've necessarily been corrupted, but that they've fallen victim to congressional creep or career creep, where that if you've just got a little bit more time, you can get something done. And so just play nice for now, and then you'll get there. And so the question that Erica asks is basically that. So once people get elected, the concern becomes more about getting reelected than about, producing results for the people. And, she said, so how are you going to, what is your stance on that? How are you going to make sure that you're not just concerned about getting reelected? And I brought up a point that I think that not enough of us are talking about, is that just like with Ash, it's like, oh, well, if I piss off these Democrats, I'm going to mess up my career. I'm not going to be able to get reelected. And they've tricked us. And there's so many of these themes that I'm picking up on where it's this narrative that if I do something that pisses off the party, I'm not going to get reelected. Well, I'm sorry, but your colleagues don't elect you. The voters do. So I said, I am going to be concerned about getting reelected in the sense that I'm going to be making sure that I'm giving my constituents what they want and need so that they will continue reelecting me. Right. So that's what our politicians should be concerned about. Am I giving my voters what they need? Am I responding to them? Am I taking care of them? Because that's how I'm going to get reelected.
Yeah, I want to ask you, are you running as a Democrat? I forgot if you're running as a Democrat or independent. I'm just curious.
Fully nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan, cool. So, and how does that work in California? Like, is there a huge disadvantage, or do you think that people will say, "Oh, you're non-viable because you're not running as a Democrat"?
Sure, and I have heard that absolutely every day since I entered in. Every day since I filed, there's been at least one person who has told me, you have to run as a Democrat or you don't have any chance. You're never going to make it. And I have pushed back on all of that for a variety of reasons. My political history is long and sordid. For a long time, I was an inactive voter. And so 2004, everybody remembers the Bush-Gore election, hanging chads. It was the first time I voted in my life. It was the first time I was eligible to vote. And it was the last time I voted for over a decade, because what I consider that to be the first stolen election of our lifetime, where a political party and somebody else put their finger on the scale to blatantly and obviously decide an election to get Bush elected. So I was an inactive voter for most of my life. I believed that the political parties didn't care about us. Our politicians didn't care about us. We all know they're corrupt. And it wasn't until this young gentleman right here, Bernard Sanders, opened up in 2016 that I realized that there can be politicians, even in a broken system, that care about us. And so that's where I got involved and started paying attention. Then we watched the DNC rig the election against him. And even though I wasn't Hillary Clinton, we watched a person who won the popular vote not get elected. So I was second and third stolen elections of our lifetime, right? And then we watched it again in 2020. The DNC put their finger on the scale and coalesced behind Biden to rig the primary against Bernie. So time and time again, the parties continue to fail us. And so I decided that I needed to run nonpartisan, that with what we'd seen with the squad and with what we'd seen with even the people that we believe in the most letting us down, the answer is always, it has something to do with the Democratic Party, right? And I'm watching this happen to a lot of wonderful leftist progressive candidates running in LA and all across this country that are running on the Democrat label, because that's what we're told. You cannot win if you do not run as a Democrat. And they are getting absolutely hammered with, we can't believe you. How are we going to trust you? You're running in the Democratic Party. There's no way you're not going to betray us. And they're just getting hammered with these questions. And, some of them are coming up with really good responses. But at the end of the day, the best it really boils down to is all you can say is, trust me, give me a chance, because until we get in there, you don't really know, right? And so my answer to that question is, well, I'm not a Democrat. No party can hold anything over me. They actually have to come get my vote because they cannot guarantee who I'm going to caucus with as a nonpartisan. So now anybody who's running nationally in other states or even here in California that are running as a Democrat, I bear them no ill will. I have no disrespect for them. And I'm actually working closely with many of them. And I hope to form coalitions, not only across, state to Congress, but also across the state levels and all of that, as you are doing with your People's Gauntlet. And again, that's a way to get people on the record. You can plug Case's People's Gauntlet. Everybody go check it out.
And just let any people know that Daniel did do, even though he's running at the state level, he did do a gauntlet if you look up People's Gauntlet on YouTube, you can see Daniel as one of the videos. But go ahead. I just want to give a quick shout out to the people in the chat. We got with PJ Weir, he's in the building. PJ Chris is in the building. Gamer for Life. I always see a gamer over in the Heartlands Media chat room. And much love to you all. All right, go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, no worries. And thanks for giving all those people a shout out. Thank you all for watching. And big shout out to Hardlands Media too, not only for playing all the Cases stuff, for the independent stuff that they're doing. And if anybody from Hardlands is watching, I'd love to have an interview on there as well. That woman you interviewed the other day, that woman you interviewed the other day was a horrendous interview. But just like Brianna, Kit Kit held it to her and kept asking her the hard questions. Yeah, if anybody wants to go watch that, go check that out.
You know the name of the person? I gotta check that one.
Jacqueline something. It was just on the other day. Kit, it was
I gotta check that one out.
So
I'll see if I can hook you up with Harlan's. I'll definitely hit up Kit, and it would be great to have you also on there to give your perspective on CalCare. Matter of fact, you have some bullet points that we definitely want to talk about with notes from the Brianna Joy Gray video, right?
Yeah. So before, let me actually. So I kind of got sidetracked. I didn't actually answer your question.
Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
No, that's my bad. I wanted to just give a little bit of background on the nonpartisan thing. So you specifically asked me about what that means and how that affects us here in California. In California, we have nothing is perfect. We still need to go to ranked choice voting and do a lot of other things, get money out of politics. But in California, we've actually moved forward in some very wonderful ways. Number one, we've opened our primaries so that you no longer have to get a party nomination to be on the ballot. I don't need a Democratic nomination. I don't need a Republican nomination to get on the ballot. All I need is the signatures from my community or to pay the filing fee to my county office, and then I'm on the ballot, which is what we've done. We got signatures, and we paid the remainder of the balance to cover our filing fee. And so we're on the ballot with no party support at all. And in some ways, with their opposition to us doing this. So we have open primaries here in California, and then we also have jungle primaries. Now, what that means is that typical primaries in any other state, the party primary goes for the Democrat, there's Republican primary goes for the Republican, and then a Democrat and a Republican compete in the general. Here in California, what happens is if there's 3 people in the race, if there's 15 people in the race, the top 2 vote getters move on from the primary to the general. So you can have 2 Democrats, you can have 2 Republicans, and that is how I believe we have the best shot at actually getting in nonpartisan, third party, and working class candidates, because we don't have to sell our souls to the party to get on the ballot. Once I'm on the ballot, there's nothing they can do to stop me other than try and run a good campaign, which we know they don't often do. They just pour money into it, and it's just a joke. But yeah, so that's the difference in California. It's open primaries where I do not need a party nomination to get on the ballot. And we have jungle primaries where it's the top 2 vote getters. So the best benefit about the jungle primary is I do not have to unseat the incumbent to get to the general. I just have to come in second. And then it's me and the incumbent in the general. Right. And so that changes everything. That changes everything. That changes the reliance on the party. That changes the need for all of the money. And it removes the barrier and the exclusion that exists for so many working class candidates who can't afford or who don't want to be a part of this broken system. We don't have to. We can be a part of it in our own way. And then so if nothing else happens with my candidacy other than creating conversations and showing people what is possible, that we don't have to submit to the party structure, that we can exist outside of it. And then we show up outside and we scare the shit out of the Democrats because there's finally a place for people to go.
Awesome. All right. So let's get into that conversation. I know you have some bullet points on what happened with Brianna Joy Gray or the interview and Ash Kara. And you had some things you wanted to push back on from Ash Kara's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first couple points is basically the argument of why he didn't put up CalCare for a vote, which is that he didn't have the votes. And I kind of already went through that point at the beginning. Basically, none of us who stand for force to vote will buy that argument because it's just a cop out at this point. You just don't want to have to put your colleagues on the record. And so that shows where your
loyalty. Matter of fact, if I could interject real quick, we've seen that tactic of forcing the vote done by other people. So for example, Chuck Schumer forced the vote on I forgot if it was the police reform legislation or what. And even though he knew it was going to fail, but he did it. So that kind of puts pressure on the people who are going to vote against it. But go ahead.
Right. And that's what I said is that, and I actually said this in my ACALA endorsement interview that, if it's again, it's backwards thinking. They've tricked us into believing the opposite of the reality, which is that if you know you're going to be put on record in one of the most important policies that is being discussed right now, with us still living through and hopefully soon coming out of a pandemic, if you know that you have to vote on something like that in an election year, you are 90% more likely. Let's not put a number on it. You are a lot more likely, I believe, to vote yes on something that you're actually opposed to because you're concerned about reelection. And so you just, not only did he give them an absolute way out, but as Brianna pointed out, candidates like myself who are running on universal health care, CalCare specifically, who are challenging the people who would have said no, who would have been a no vote. You've now again robbed us of that opportunity to campaign on that, because now they can say, I would have voted yes, and we'll never know.
And that's why, yeah.
And that's why your people's gauntlet is so important. So we get people on the record before they even get in there, so that we have something, we have a starting point to hold them accountable with, right? But so, yeah, so that it's a cop out, and it's the absolute opposite of what it should be. In a midterm election year, when Democrats are worried about losing the House everywhere, when they are worried about losing control of their legislatures, forcing them to vote on the most popular policy that's being discussed right now would make them more likely to vote yes than vote no. So there's that. And then also, so more likely to vote yes with that pressure campaign, and also gives us the cannon fodder to use that against them when we're running. Because most of the candidates who are going to vote no are either just ideologically opposed to it, I guess, or on the hook for corporate money, as my opponent is, taking money from healthcare industry, hospital executives. His list of donations, the longest, is from healthcare industries and executives. And so he was never going to vote yes. We invited him last year, even before I was running for the state assembly. We held the CalCare rallies in January when they did this, February 8th, when they did the state launch, statewide day of action. We did rallies in April. We did phone banking, text banking, calling. And every time we did a public event, we invited my opponent. And he refused, declined the event.
Really?
Yeah. So I know 100% that he's never going to vote for it. But now I can't actually use his vote as proof. And he can go and run a campaign saying that he's for healthcare.
Yeah.
So first point I want to refute is that he didn't have the votes, and so that's why he didn't do it. Second point is he said that forcing people to go on the record and say no would entrench their position and make them even harder in it, so that they would be even more likely to vote. Because Brianna said, what's the harm if it doesn't pass? Like, do you have to start all over? And he said, no, we just resubmit it next year. And she said, so then what? what do you lose? And that's where he said it would double them down. It would entrench the people who were no votes. And again, if that's the case, then we primary them and put in somebody who will. So again, that's a non sequitur or a non-starter. Let's see, what else? Oh, the other thing she really nailed him on, and I think that there's absolutely no excuse for this, and I was actually very disappointed in his answer for two reasons. She said, did you reach out to Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, anybody in the, she didn't keep going, but I would also add anybody in the squad. Did he reach out to anybody in the national level who is 100% for healthcare and Medicare for all? And he said, no. Why? Why didn't you have Bernie, AOC, the squad doing events all up and down the state of California last year? And not only did he say no, but then Brianna asked him further with the media and outreach and stuff like that. And Ash said that, well, the nurses were responsible for the media, and I was running the legislation part. I'm sorry. Did you just throw a bunch of first responders who gave up their lives for a year to fight for your piece of legislation? Did you just throw them under the bus? That's absolutely unacceptable to me, because the nurses were doing so much. Not only the events that I talked about, the nurses started an education program because, again, another point he made, oh, well, the education just isn't out there. The people aren't behind it. We need more policy wonks out there that can have in-depth conversations like you and I are having right now. My pushback again to that is you didn't reach out to anybody from the national level who are very wonky on this stuff and easily could have translated their Medicare for all knowledge into what we have here for CalCare. So there's that. Number two, if that is the case, why aren't you creating some kind of way to educate people? And so the nurses actually saw that gap and did fill that gap. The nurses started an education program where it's a couple, I think a 4 or 6 week seminar program where you log in every day and the cohorts of, I think, about 20 people, and they go through everything from financing to legislation to how to organize, what areas you need to target, what communities need to be educated. And they are graduating. I think they've graduated more than 6 or 7 classes, if not more, of these well-armed, educated people throughout the state of California. So the nurses are on the ground doing this. They have weekly phone banks, they have text banks, they have pressure campaigns. So I don't know what part of that they dropped because they were doing everything on top of their jobs. So I feel like that was just an unfortunate response from him.
Mhm.
So yeah, what was the other point? Oh, the corporate free point. So and Brianna was like dumbfounded by the fact that there in the state of California there are only 2 corporate free candidates out of 100 or politicians out of 120 assembly members.
Yeah,
And so
yeah, it's crazy.
his
To me,
response,
that means we got to primary a whole bunch of people. To me, in my personal opinion, but go ahead.
right?
Dane.
And so that's how he belied his own previous point, is that I couldn't force the vote and put these people on the record because then they wouldn't vote for it next time. Well, if we need to primary them and get them out, number one, we need to know that they're a no vote so that we can use that against them. And that's how you replace them. So if you were truly serious about replacing these candidates and replacing these holdouts and these obstinate politicians, you would have forced the vote so that we could replace them. But again, the concern was more about party politics and party loyalty and not pissing off his colleagues. And that's where, let's move on to the next point that kind of ties into that. He actually said that the jungle primary system we have here in California is why there is so many moderate and corporate Democrats. He said, because when you get at this end level, like I told you, we could have 2 Democrats, right? And so he said, once you get to the end point where there's 2 Democrats on the ballot, the incumbent always wins. They've always got more money, name recognition, this and this and that. Well, aren't you a sitting assembly member? Don't you have all kinds of contacts and connections? Why are you not endorsing these candidates that are running against the corporate establishment corrupt Democrats? Why are you not having a program where you connect and reach out? And I get that his job is supposed to be legislating, but if you don't have the support and what you need in your House legislature, then you, as I will be doing, I'm going to be keeping my eye on everybody throughout the state of California, any nonpartisan, progressive, leftist candidates that are fighting for the same policies that we are. I'm going to have research on these people that are potentially running, or local activists that we could approach and suggest that they run. Because a lot of times what they need is support, encouragement, and a way to know that they are going to be able to make it. And so we need to be reaching out and connecting to these people and not just waiting for them to pop their head up, waiting for somebody to take this plunge and this deep dive. We should be looking for these candidates. And that's something that you've talked about as well with your People's Gauntlet. You know, a potential thing in the future is with the volunteer programs, when you see these people doing so much and being so loyal and showing up for candidates consistently, then we approach them and say, hey, let us help you run, right? And so again, this is not all on his shoulders. There's a lot that, like you said, the ground game needs to be there to support these candidates. But I feel like the people with the most visibility, the highest platform, the biggest bully pulpit should be the ones at least doing the most work as far as presenting these candidates, promoting them. Because even when she asked him, he said he had, I think, 4 to 6 candidates that he was working with and that are corporate free and that he know will be a yes vote, and that that's his hope for being able to swing it next time.
Mhm.
And she said, who are these candidates? And I think he listed a few of them, but he should have had a list ready. He should have told everybody to go to their website, donate to these candidates, canvass for them if you can. That's how you support them. You repeat their name as often as you can. Every time you have a press conference, you say, this, these are the candidates in these districts that are running on CalCare. I need you to go support them. And
Yeah.
he's still not even doing that. Our primary is 3 months away. June 7th is our primary. Early voting starts May 9th. We have 2 months until people can start turning in their ballots. And I'm still not hearing anything about a push for the CalCare candidates. That should be his number one priority, considering his failure right now and his betrayal. I don't know how safe he's even going to be. He should be coming to all of us for help so that he can get reelected, because he's put a target on his back for the grassroots and the the diehard CalCare and single payer people who justifiably feel extremely betrayed. And I talked a lot, so let me know if you have any input. That's basically the most of it. You're on mute. Hit it.
Yeah, I also wanted to talk about that point that you said that um he made the point that if you the jungle primary is not beneficial for progressives, that it like artificially creates moderate candidates. Am I right?
So basically, what he said is that the moderate will always win if there's a progressive and a moderate Democrat. And
Mhm.
again, that's wrong, because what is the main thing we hear when we're challenging an incumbent? Oh, you're vote splitting. You're going to let a Republican win. Number one, that's if your candidate's not strong enough to beat a Republican, then it doesn't deserve to win. Number two, if there's only two Democrats in the fight, that argument goes out the window. There is no vote splitting. You now legitimately have the opportunity to pick the best of supposedly two good options, right? Because it's not the
Yeah.
lesser of evils at that point. We're not choosing between a shitty Democrat and a shitty Republican. You
Mhm.
supposedly have two semi decent options, at least, between, if you're a Democrat looking at that, that should actually be good. Be like, I know that no matter what happens here, somebody at least similarly minded to me is going to get in there. So again, all of those arguments go out the window, and that's what I know I'm going to be able to use once I'm through the primary and we're in the general, and it's just me and a Democrat. He can't use the Republicans' bad fear mongering tactic of you have to vote for me or you're going to let a Republican win. If there's not a Republican in the race, that's not even a possibility. And so it should strengthen the leftist, Democrat, independent ability to win if there's nobody else, because every other party and group in that district should coalesce behind the independent leftist progressive Democrat. And the nurses unions, the social justice groups, the labor unions, the Rotary clubs, the vets clubs. Once you see that it's only a corrupt Democrat or somebody who's actually fighting for you, even if you're a registered Democrat, you should all coalesce behind that other person. And that's how we get them in. You don't just say, oh, well, because the corporate Democrat is in there and he's probably going to win, I'm just going to vote for him. What is that, or that person? What is that self defeatism? That's what happened to Bernie. Oh, I love. How many people did you talk to, Case? I love Bernie. He's a great guy. I
Yeah.
love his policies, but he can't win, so I'm
Yeah.
not going to vote for him either.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you don't vote
I,
for him, he's never going to win.
I heard
Like,
that the other day. Somebody was telling me how they were an Elizabeth Warren supporter because they just thought that Bernie's ideas was too couldn't get passed, and I had to talk to him and say, like, his ideas are the things that we absolutely need right now. He's the one pushing the narrative on a single payer healthcare. I can't imagine if Elizabeth Warren ran in 2016, right? Like, if we would even know what Medicare for all is right now at the level that we do know it at, because she was not a pusher of Medicare for all. She signed on to it initially, but we see how disingenuous she was about actually having it passed, because her plan for Medicare for all was garbage.
Absolutely.
So we definitely I don't know, and you know what, and we're going to go to some questions in the chat
Sure,
because
sure.
we might have some, and PJ Chris know what this is when we talk about no cow zone, which is basically a fun way to say we're going to have a debate on different things. And no
Let's
cow
do it.
zone is short for no cancellation zone because we can have debates and not cancel each other. That's what
Yes,
the left, right? That's what we
that's
should be
what I
all about.
that's what I
So
respect so much about you, Case.
yeah, much love. And man, I should have starred the comments, but shoot. You know what? I'm gonna let you if you have anything you want to say, I'm gonna look for the comments and then we'll get to it. Daniel, you want to say you have anything else to say?
Oh, sorry. I thought I was reading the comment. I was waiting for a question.
Yeah,
No,
no.
that's
I gotta look. I made a mistake and I did not like star the comment that I wanted to go straight to. So I'm gonna look for it. But if you want to
sure.
continue talking while I look for it, you
Sure.
could do that.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, no, I see earlier CMT3 brought up, maybe just maybe we should say M for A to those that want it.
That's the
Uh,
one I was looking for. Yeah.
so the only problem with that CMT is that that was a cop out that Pete Buttigieg used, and it was like a half teensy baby step. So here's the beauty of Medicare for All or CalCare is it doesn't abolish private insurance companies. It doesn't close them down. If you don't want the system or the doctor or whatever is being offered to you through the free Medicare for All program, it's your freedom to go pay for private insurance. And so it's already Medicare for all who want it. The problem is we want to universally provide it so that anybody who needs to access it can, but you are not forced to. Nobody's going to hold a gun to your head and say, you have to go to the Medicare for all clinic. Go now. It's not going to happen. You have the freedom to go to any doctor you want to go to any hospital you want to go to any emergency room, any urgent care, any private physician or specialist that you want to go to that is referred and medically necessary and recommended by your doctor, you will get to go to, right? All of that will be covered and paid for by the state or the federal government. um, if you either go there and you don't like the services you get, you can go to another doctor, or if you go there and you don't like what they cover, what's qualified or any of that, you can go and opt into the public system where there's, you can go into Kaiser, Aetna, the whatever. So those aren't going to be shut down when we pass Medicare for all. And so I take your point absolutely, CMT, that we don't want to be forcing things on people that they don't want, but we need to make sure that there is a floor for people to fall on if they need it. Right. So even if you don't ever use your Medicare for all, you've got employer health care, whatever, you're happy with it. What if you get laid off? What if you get injured and you lose your job, or something else crazy happens and you lose your employer based health care? You will no longer have to wonder what's going to happen next. You will know that you have that Medicare for all cushion to fall on. So it's not about forcing people into things that they don't want. It's about making sure that everybody has what they need if they need it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And also, I want to say so, from what I understand, the history of Medicare was that it would start off covering everybody 65 and up, right? Back when it was first passed. And the idea was that the Democrats would slowly push it back, have another legislation, another law that would make it 55 and up, then 45 and up, and 35 and up. And this is back when it first initially was created. And guess
Yeah.
what? It just they never got back to it.
Right.
So I hear
Yeah.
some people saying, hey, maybe we should do a public option, maybe we should get this and that different options. And to a certain extent, I hear the logic behind that. But sometimes you just gotta fight for the full single player plan. And if anything, if it was up to me, I would have fight for single payer or Medicare for all, CalCare, and then transition over 10 years to more of a nationalized healthcare system, period, like what England has. That's, in my
Mhm.
opinion, like a VA, Veterans Affairs for All, or VA. You probably know. I think you were in the military, right, Daniel?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So you know what I'm talking about. I don't. Do you have VA care, or have you ever used
Yeah,
them? See.
I do.
So, and is it good? Do you like it? Do you enjoy it?
So That's actually that's a very good question, and actually a very good conversation that I've been trying to
Yeah,
have with anybody we can, because there is Medicare for all and CalCare is actually a veterans issue as well. Because there's a common misperception that if you are a veteran, you automatically have healthcare, and you don't. You have healthcare while you're in the military, and then
interesting.
currently, because most of us are coming out of what is active duty war, in a time of active warfare, we have 5 years of health coverage when we separate from the military. But after that point, if you do not qualify for a disability, you lose all healthcare coverage. And even in those 5 years, your spouse and your children, none of your dependents are covered in your healthcare. And even if you lose, even once you lose that 5 year coverage and you say you do get qualified for VA disability care, which is an extremely dehumanizing, frustrating, unnecessary, complicated process. Even if you get your way through all of that and you get approved for a disability percentage, like I said, your wife, your husband, your kids, they don't get that care. So the only way for veterans to get 100% health care and have their dependents also receive that health care is if they are 100% disabled or they retire from the military. And so healthcare for all is absolutely a veterans issue. And I guarantee you that if we implemented Medicare for all and CalCare, either and both, that not only would our veteran mental health issues decline, but our veteran homelessness issues would decline because of the increased care. And so to answer specifically your question, is the VA care good? Yes, when you can get to it, and when you can get to it in a variety of levels, when you can physically get to it because there's one close enough to you for you to drive to, and when there is appointments available for you to drive to. um I understand your point, CMT 63, that it wasn't hard for your husband to get covered, but there are veterans who are still fighting to get approval for their them being affected by Agent Orange in Vietnam. So your husband's experience was a good one. I'm very happy for him with that. That is not the common experience, and I work with a lot of veterans here in my county specifically that have had to fight, kick, claw, scratch, and scream to get their disability approved. But yes, once you get to the doctors, CMT, you're absolutely correct. The doctors are very good because, and this is a part that is put into CalCare, is that there's mandated cultural competency proficiency required. And so that is where the VA steps in good. And that's why a lot of veterans are terrified to lose it. And we won't lose it with healthcare for all. We'll talk about that. But even with all of the problems with the VA, we know that when we go there, these people are going to understand us, that we're not going to face judgment for what we say, what we do, or what we've been through. And so the comfort and the safety net of going somewhere where you know people are going to love, understand, respect, and support you is very important, especially when we're dealing with, I mean, when we're put through the military, it's beat into our head into day one that illness, needing help, having a physical disability, whatever it is, it's all weakness and it's wrong, and you don't say anything about it. You don't go to medical. You don't have a problem. It's weakness, and you don't show that. And so, getting somebody through all of that, especially if they're dealing with PTSD and mental health issues, they're going to be a lot more likely to go to a VA where they get to see their brothers and sisters sitting beside them who may have served and gone through the same things that they have, versus going into a private clinic. And I know it sounds silly, but it really makes a huge difference. So I want to say to any and all veterans watching, and to any and everybody watching, veterans do not get guaranteed health care. Healthcare for all, whether it's Medicare for all or CalCare, is a veterans issue, and we need to be fighting for it 100%, absolutely. And then beyond that, when CalCare and health and Medicare for all gets passed, the VA will not be shut down. And not only will the VA not be shut down, and that's a huge piece of misinformation that I believe that I don't know who's been putting it out, but it's a scare tactic to keep veterans from getting on board with Medicare for All, is that, hey, if we pass Medicare for All, they're going to cancel the VA. And that could not be farther from the truth. The VA is not going anywhere, not happening. So, and my even further beyond that, having Medicare for All and CalCare will enhance the VA, not only our care, but their ability to care for us. Because what happens is, when you get a service-connected disability, say you broke your leg, and so the VA says, okay, we'll connect you 10% service-connected for your leg. You will only get treated for your leg. If you break your arm 5 years later, you've got to go to a private doctor. It's not covered in your disability. So that's what happens with just having an individual or a single disability. But when you get 100% disability, or when you retire, you go to the VA for anything. Whether you get a cold, whether you get glaucoma, whether you need to have surgery, whether you need glasses, you go to the VA for everything for the rest of your life and your dependents. So that clogs up the VA system to where, instead of them only treating veterans specifically with PTSD or specifically military related conditions, they go there for everything. And so if they had universal health care to where they could go down the street when they get a cold to their mom and pop, or they go down the street to the foot doctor when they get a bunion, and they don't have to hoof it an hour to the VA, that will clear the backlog that is causing us to wait 2, 3, 4 months for appointments. So Medicare for All and CalCare will actually enhance the VA, and it will clear our backlog so that they can actually treat more veterans.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank and welcome Razel the Great to the chat, and here we and pretty much ended right here. You know, we talked a while about, you know, Daniel's campaign, and talked about his perspective on the CalCare debate, and definitely go out there, let the people know how they can support you, Daniel.
Absolutely. I just want to say really quick in the chat, Raziel the Great and CMT. Yes, we absolutely. This is great knowledge. We need to be driving this narrative and this issue. Any and all of you, please share this information anytime you have a chance to talk to somebody, especially if they're trying to shoot down Medicare for All in defense of veterans. Please share this knowledge, and you don't have to call them out. Let's do it with love and support, and just be like, hey, man, I've actually got some, firsthand knowledge about what the veterans are going through and how this could help them. Let's have a conversation. We don't have to call people out. We don't have to disrespect them or insult them. That's actually the easiest way to shut down a conversation. So let's call people in and share knowledge instead of, lobbing accusations and complaints at them. If you've got the opportunity to share this knowledge, I fully support it, and it's 100% verified. I'm a veteran going through all of this stuff. So thank all of you that have been here, commenting, asking questions, watching, participating, and that are a part of the fight, both with myself and with Case. And all of the independent news and media that we support and we watch. Thank you all so much. To support me, you can check out votefordaniel.com is my website. You can sign up there to get on our email subscription, sign up to volunteer and support. And the contribute button is up at the top right as a bright yellow button. As I said, we're grassroots, non-corporate. We're not taking any lobbyist money, any fossil fuel money, any PAC money. There it is. Thanks, Case, man. I appreciate that. And look, there's my wonderful wife. There's my beautiful wife, Nancy. She's so supportive and amazing. I love her so much. So 100% corporate, grassroots. So any single dollar, I mean, I get dollars as small as $2. I get donation contributions as small as $2. And that still helps. Every dollar that you can send our way helps to make sure that we're out there holding events. Because at every event we do, it's an educationally targeted, focused issue, whether we're focusing on healthcare, labor rights, canceling the rents, housing issues. It's not just an event to show up and raise money for my campaign. We're also making sure that we're educating and empowering the community with resources and knowledge of what they actually have empowered to do. So votefordaniel.com, and then at Daniel4VC for all of my social medias. All the links are right there at the bottom. Thank you, Case, for showing that. There's my Twitter right there. Thank you so much, Case, for this opportunity. I've kind of been screaming at the wall about this CalCare stuff trying to get these rebuttals out there, because we can't keep letting them control the narrative. I think that that's
Yeah.
one thing that we need to get better at doing, is instead of responding, we need to get out there and lead the narrative so that they've got to backpedal and figure out how to respond to us. And so that we put the good information out first and not as a retraction.
100%. 100%. And I'm hoping maybe I could get you on our show on a Monday night. I think we'll talk about that after the
Yeah, sure.
uh
I'd be happy to make that happen.
yeah, yeah. And so thank you for coming on. And hopefully if some people learns from this conversation. And also please go out there and support Daniel, a true progressive running at the state level. And he's somebody who will fight. I think, Daniel, something that we're looking for now, we've seen the generations of progressive candidates. I put in air quotes, progressive candidates, ever since Bernie was elected, right? And we see every cycle, we elect people who say they're progressives, like the squad, and then we see the second generation of the squad, and each time we get a little bit disappointed or very disappointed, depending on how you feel about them. And we're at the point where we're looking for progressives who are independent third parties who are not running in the Democratic Party. We're looking for people who are straight up running against the party system. Like that's where we're going to be at next. That's where our energy is going to go into, because they keep making it harder for the next generation. We have AOC, we had Jamal Bowman, who a lot of people was hitting him because at the State of the Union address, he was like, "Hey, I want to be just like you," to Joe Biden. And, Joe Biden, who gave us the crime bill, Joe Biden, who voted for the Iraq War, Joe Biden, like, why would you say that, right? So I know some people might think that's nitpicking, but this is telling us the character. We're looking for somebody like a Kashama Sawant, who has her own crew, right? She has her own outside crew, and she goes in there and say, "Hey, I'm here to make some noise." That's the purpose. I'm not here to go along to get along. I'm here to expose the system, and we're going to make some noise. So everyone in the chat, thank you so much. Let me read this last statement from Razel the Great. Yes, we need the fighters to come in and not be afraid. It's not easy to stand up and be up to big money interests. And you know what? When we do have those fighters, though, we as the grassroots have to have their back. And that's why when we get Daniel elected, we're going to have your back. And then we hope that you continue to come on the show and let us know what's going on. Much love to you, my man, Daniel. Much love to Razel. Yeah, he said the DNC are destroying the energy moving forward, and that's their goal. Yeah, 100%. You could have been anywhere in the world. You have any last words, Daniel?
Just that is absolutely correct. They want us demoralized, detached, and disengaged, because then they don't have any opposition to their profit motive interests, right?
100%.
And that's why we can't stop voting. We still need to be out in the streets, but if we stop voting, we pull up the anchor that is slowing the rapid rightward swing that we're trying to be taken on, right? So we need to not pull up that anchor. We need to drop more anchors in the ground so that we halt the rightward movement of this country and can bring it back to where it needs to be, and moving and focusing and prioritizing people over profits, focusing on the issues and real tangible solutions. So 100%. Absolutely, we need to have the grassroots back, and I will always be back on Case Study QB, on independent media.
Right there, he froze, so I don't know if he'll come back, but he like he was saying, he'll come back on independent media on all the different channels, and I do have a lot of faith in my guy Daniel that he will do that. He's a man of his word. Much love to everybody in the chat. Have a good day. Adios.
Peace, y'all.